Jaguars, Titans. Going through what y'all need to know to make some money on this bitch. So we got the picks real quick. Titans favored by 7.5 on the road, and an over/under set at 52.5. So I'm pretty decent on the Jags plus 7.5 here, um, as well as I actually think there is value on the Jaguars money line. Now I'm not going to go ahead and make it a bettable thing. I'll get into why, but Jags plus 7.5 pretty decent, and over/under as far as I'm concerned completely untouchable. So stick around. I'll tell you how and why. That's how it go down. So first we got the Titans offense being the road team versus the Jags defense. Injury wise, three starters questionable in the Titans: Roger Saffold, Ben Jones, and Dennis Kelly. Roger Saffold was questionable last week, I know, and he played. I think Dennis Kelly was too. So I think they're all going to play. And Johnny Smith was questionable. Now he didn't play last week, so I'm not sure if he's going to play. And honestly, I don't care too much. A little bit, but not too much. Then on the Jag side, Sidney Jones, starting corner questionable, as well as Greg Maben, who started the game and played in the first half, not the second half last week for the Jags. Another corner, although I don't think he'd be playing even if he is in. And then Kamali Correa, rotational linebacker, also questionable. Former Titan, also. So as far as the offense versus the defense, the Titans offense versus the Jags defense, this there's some issues here for the for the Titans offense. So I talked about last week, right, how the Titans were gonna put up points on the Browns, which they did, especially going in the second half. The game basically went exactly how I said it was going to, and the week before too, I said that they were gonna put up a bunch of points on the Colts. This week, I don't quite expect their offense to reach the same level. So offensive line versus defensive line. Listen, the Titans don't really have that much of an advantage here. The Jags, they have a good run defending defensive front four. Dwayne Smoot is whatever. Adam Gotsis is like legitimately good defensive end. And with the benching of Taven Bryan, which hopefully for their sake continues, the rotation of Doug Costin, Karan Reed, Daniel Ekwale, as defensive tackles, actually like not bad at all. And yeah, so you're not talking about a ton of push on the offensive line, and there's going to be some penetration from Adam Gotsis, especially, who's been doing it all year. And Karan Reed, listen, when he came up from the practice squad earlier in the year, he was good. He got sent back down because Jags kind of dumb. And then last week, you watched him against the Vikings. He was fucking killing it. He was really good, and I think that might be the case here. Now, Titans interior offensive line much better than the Vikings, especially Ben Jones, who's going to put a stop to a lot of that. But Roger Saffold's really vulnerable, pretty overrated player. And then Nate Davis. I mean, last week he got fucking destroyed by Sheldon Richardson and Jordan Elliott, two penetrating defensive tackles, kind of similar to Karan Reed. Now they're both better, like for sure. So I don't want to overrate this impact. I just want to point out that it's not really all that rosy for the Titans offensive line as far as the run game goes, and even on the edges, right? Dennis Kelly, decent run blocker. He's questionable, A, and B, even if he plays, he's not anything special. And on the other edge, David Quessenberry I actually like, and he handled Myles Garrett pretty decent last week, but they were not doing a lot of running the ball because they were down, whatever, 35 in the first half. So still yet to be seen how great of a run blocker he is, but I don't hate him. Then on the second level, Jags linebackers, I've come around on. So a lot of this year, I was kind of putting Miles Jack as like super mistake prone. He's getting a lot less of that. Now it's still there, and there are still flashes of the Jags giving up long runs, which you saw against the Browns 2 weeks ago. You're going to see here a little bit too. But Miles Jack's good. Joe Schobert is not so good, but his job is fairly easy in this game. And Joe Giles Harris, the third linebacker that was playing last week against the Vikings, like legitimately, they were playing like five on the line. He was the end man in the line of scrimmage, was like playing well. So the overall run game for the Titans, I mean, it's not all that good. So there's still potential for the traditional fucking 90 yard Derrick Henry run, because it's not like the defensive line is like a super advantage for the Jaguars, and the linebackers are still vulnerable to getting out of position a little bit. But you can see that the Jags are down to down actually going to be pretty good against the run here. Same way they were last week against a better running team in the Vikings. So then you talk about the pass game. As far as the pass rush goes, they're a lot better for the Titans. Jags are bad, just a bad pass rushing team. They don't have anyone that can really rush the passer at this point. Now you might see a little bit and I hesitate to say this because Caleb on Chason has not been very good, but he has at least flashed a tiny bit of outside speed rush, and maybe that can come up against Questenberry. I don't think so, but I just want to point that out. And other than that, you're talking about like Karan Reed as an interior rusher. Basically, not a lot of pass rush, if any. So then you talk about the receivers. Now here again, I'll just point out that the guys that the Jags have been rotating in haven't been all that bad. Luke Barku, I kind of shit on him 2 weeks ago, but I reviewed him and I watched what he did last week, and like I don't know, he got like a little bit roasted by Justin Jefferson, but Justin Jefferson's really good, and he mostly was okay. And Greg Maben, I thought before he got benched, I guess maybe he got hurt. That actually I think makes more sense. Was pretty decent too. And Trey Herndon is not very good, but he's not the worst player ever. And if you look at the Titans' offensive core, AJ Brown's good and he's going to be open. He's going to be advantaged in this game, but I think he's going to be limited a little bit by the Jags corners. And Corey Davis, just as a baseline, isn't all that good. Last week he kind of went off because he benefited from like three blown, like gigantic blown coverages, which he didn't cause by any means. Which, I mean, if it happens again, whatever. But that had nothing to do with him. And Adam Humphrey's on IR now, so their third receiver, whether it's Cameron Batson or Nick Westbrook or Khalif Raymond, I actually think all three of them can do like little bits of things. But overall, their receiving core is an advantage, but not like killers. And what they rely on is their tight ends being open. And Miles Jack's a legitimately good coverage player. Joe Schobert's an okay coverage player. And with no Andrew Wingard, who's unplayable, and that was something I got wrong last week too. I thought he was going to be starting for them. I missed that they had brought Jonathan Jones back off of IR. But now that he's in, their capability to cover tight ends over the middle of the field isn't the worst. So overall, I think the pass game for I should mention Tannehill though. Tannehill versus the defense. I am encouraged about Tannehill. When you give him a pretty comfortable scenario in the pocket, combined with weapons who are going to find space, he's going to be just fine, which you'll see in this game. He's not a complete killer. He's not, if you give him ideal circumstance, he's not going to put up 50, but he should be pretty decent in this game. But yeah, so their overall pass game, I think it'll be decent, but like I said, I don't actually think it's necessarily going to go crazy. Because what they really lean on, what you have to focus on, is how their tight ends / receivers interact over the middle of the field. And here, they're going to be good, but not great. And the run game doesn't necessarily make up for it. So I have them a point spread 23-30, so still high. Like, I'm not tripping, still high. But it's maybe not all the way up there. So then you get to the Jaguars offense. Injury-wise, Brandon Linder, very good starting center for the Jags out. That hurts. And Tyler Eifert, questionable starting tight ends, don't care. For the Titans, though, Austin Jackson just did the Dolphins preview. Adderley Jackson's still out, and Breon Borders. So Breon Borders got absolutely fucking burned twice last week, but I actually think he's been playing well. And those two plays, he was like left on an island with good receivers, and the quarterback had like 5 seconds plus in the pocket. Like, I don't put all that much stock into that. It did look bad, don't get me wrong, but because of that, they're down to Ty Smith as one of their outside corners, who's not that good. So you're going to see here, yeah, I'll get to that. So offensive line versus defensive line. Even without Linder, I think the Jags offensive line is going to be okay in this game. Their interior, so they're definitely going to move Tyler Shatley to center and start Ben Barch at guard, I would bet on. So you're going to see that the Titans' defensive interior is still not very good. Jeffrey Simmons is awesome, and he's going to be a notable problem in this game, for sure. But he is a non-Aaron Donald interior player, so I don't want to overrate his impact. And their other guys, Daquan Jones is just a fat guy in the middle. Taylor Tard, who I think is good, got suspended for this game for a dirty play last week. And their other defensive tackles are bad. And on the edges, the tackles for the Jags are legitimately good, especially as run blockers. And the Titans' edge defenders are kind of bad. Harold Landry's whatever, but they move him around the field a lot. And as a run defending edge, he's not all that good. And on the other side, Derek Roberson, who's questionable too, who I actually think is okay. I would choose the Jags tackles as an advantage, even if he plays. And if he doesn't, you're probably looking at, I think it's like this Tujar Skipper as the other edge. And that dude's fucking big. I noticed that when I saw him, but he didn't seem very good from everything I've seen. So there's advantages on the edge for the Jaguars too. So then you talk about the second level, and without yeah, again with the Titans down to one good linebacker instead of two, Jam Brown on IR, there were issues. David Long fucking got so far ahead of himself rushing to the backfield in the wrong hole last week. He's an issue, and Will Compton's nothing special. So you're going to see that with only like to stop the run, they kind of only have one good linebacker in Jeffrey Simmons, which is gonna be enough some plays, but not over the course of the game. So I think the Jags are gonna be able to run the ball decently, just like they did the last 2 weeks against similarly bad run defenses. So for the pass game, even there, starting with the pass rush, Titans pass rush is trash, and Jeffrey Simmons is an issue, but not an Aaron Donald interior rusher. And on the edge, again, Jags tackles are good. There's going to be a little bit from Harold Landry as a speed rusher versus Cam Robinson, I would think. But other than that, you're basically talking about nothing. And so then the receivers, the Jags receivers, legitimately good. Keelan Cole and DJ Chark are both like legitimately good play drivers. And Malcolm Butler can like lightly limit one of them, but he's not a shutdown corner. And Ty Smith is like built to take on like bigger receivers, and both of them are probably going to cook him. To be honest with you, Desmond King is a good slot corner for sure, and I think he helps a lot versus Laviska Shenault, who's still getting better as a route runner. So I think Chenault's going to be limited, but when you're talking about one option out of three that's limited and not even shut down, that's a ton. That's a ton of space that they can find. So yeah, and really the only limiting factor is Mike Glennon. And I mentioned in my last video and in my recap that like Mike Glennon actually does things as a quarterback that aren't all that trashy. Like he can actually pilot an offense to marginal success by taking easy open throws, especially in like the completely clean pocket he's going to have. So yeah, I think their over pass game is going to be pretty decent. You're going to see Chark and Keelan Cole be really good in this game. And Kevin Byard is by far the Titans' best player, and Mike Glennon doesn't really throw the ball downfield enough for him to make a huge difference. And once the Jags get in the red zone, though, that's where I get more worried. Now, it's still possible because of them being able to run the ball in this game. That always raises the level of what I expect in the red zone. And DJ Chark and Keelan Cole, especially Keelan Cole's really good in that area, actually, can raise the floor, too. But I have them point spread at 18 to 26. And frankly, even I was talking about it now, that could be a little low. This is more of a middle of high variance because if you look at how the Jags actually scored touchdowns the last 2 weeks, it was not impressive. It was like off of fluky tipped picks or tipped balls that should have been picks. It was off of pick sixes by the defense. It was off of like kind of lucky turnovers. It was off of dumb stuff. But in this game, I think they're going to be fundamentally, in terms of like actively moving the ball, a lot better than they were the last two games because they're playing a worse. They have a better matchup versus this defense for sure. So, is it possible that Mike Glennon just can't score touchdowns if he has to do it himself without luck? Yeah, for sure. Hence why I don't think the Jags like is a guarantee or anything. But is it possible that he can? Absolutely as well. So, yeah, I think that's why I'm pretty decently on the Jags plus 7.5 because I think even if they don't, there's still a chance that they get those dumb scores, and even without it, there's a chance they do score the points themselves. The Jags money line though, it's a little too risky for me because there's a decently sized chance the Jags just can't score points once they get in the red zone, and that's the same thing with the over under where it's just not touchable because if the Jags can, the game is going to go over. If they can't, it's going to go under, and you just don't know at this point. You can make your own judgment on that, but Jags plus 7.5 pretty decent, and that's where I land on the Jags Titans.